Okay, so I know you were looking into Author's Purpose for next week. So I found a book that I thought would be very good for Author's Purpose. It's called Hero Weighs In. Um, I also know that you were wanting to focus in on higher level thinking questions. So what I found were some materials that you could go through and you could pick what you would think would be good for your higher level thinking prompts.
Okay.
So if you want to go through them, if you wouldn't mind reading them aloud,
Okay.
and then we can decide, or you can decide which ones you want to use.
Okay. So this one says, how does the characters feel? Why does the character feel that way? I think that would be a good idea because it's going to help the kids determine the author's purpose. So I think that would be a good one for them to think about. Look at the way the writer ended the book. Is this a good way to end the story? Why or why not? Again, I think this would be a good one because I think we're talking about the writer, and if we're talking about author's purpose, it might help the kids to better determine the purpose for the writing of the story.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Why do you think the author wrote about these characters? Again, another question about why the author did something, which is the purpose. So I think it'll help lead the students to the idea of what the author's purpose might be.
And I think that's a really good one too, because it's more analysis, which is a higher level thinking strategy.
Okay.
And I think that is really going to help them focus in on analyzing the text.
Okay. And dig a little deeper, maybe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why do you think the writer chose to tell the story? This is author's purpose, so
Right.
This would be a good one. And it is a little higher thinking. Who are the characters? That's not quite as high, so I don't think we should use that one.
Yeah.
Does the character change throughout the story? I think this isn't, it does say how, but I don't think it's as higher level, so I don't know that this is gonna help me. I think these 4 would be good, especially for a 15-minute lesson.
Right.
I probably won't get through too much more, but I think these are perfect for what I'm looking for.
Right. So you want to make sure that just as like with any guided reading that we're introducing vocabulary, did you want to go through the story and look at maybe some of the vocabulary
Sure.
words that you wanted to go across?
So usually when I start a lesson, the first thing I do is I have the students predict what the story is going to be about. And a lot of them will come to it and they'll say, oh, I think it's going to be about space. But sometimes I have them delve a little deeper into it rather than just saying space. So, and then I sometimes will go through and I'll point out some of the words. Now, these words look like they're highlighted, but there's some words here too that I see, like allergic.
Mm-hmm.
They may not know that one. So I might go over the highlighted words.
Okay.
I think that would be good.
Okay. And those look like words that they might struggle with.
Yes.
Being on this level.
Yeah, because this is about an on-level book, but
And like maybe even like protective.
yeah, and pioneers.
Yeah.
Like I think they'll trip up on those.
Ooh, even agriculture maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that looks like a good idea. I think that there's enough words in there. You don't have to necessarily focus in on all of them, but definitely hitting some of them and going over what they mean, just so that the students really grasp the point of the story, and that'll help with author's purpose as well, because if they don't understand the vocabulary words, they're not going to be able to grasp author's purpose.
Right.
So hold on one second. So what I'm hearing is that you want to really focus in on author's purpose, and you want to ask those higher level thinking questions. Is this something that this group has struggled with?
I think they always at this age struggle with it because they want to real quick give me a response, so they don't answer, with deeper thinking answers. So yes, I would say they struggle with it. It's sometimes like pulling teeth to get the answers out. So I'm hoping that if I since I have these like prepared questions, I think maybe it'll help me too, because I struggle with, when we're in a book, if they are struggling to give me an answer, then I kind of just will guide them a little more, whereas letting them think a little more about it. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I think this will definitely help me to stay on track and let them answer rather than me answering for them.
Okay. Well, I think that that's a really good point that you picked out, that, you know, these questions are really going to help guide you. And I think what I'm hearing is you saying that you kind of like guide them through it, instead of letting them come to the process
Yeah.
of it. So I think that that's going to be very helpful for you to really stay on track and stay focused. Is there a certain point throughout the story where you would want to use the words or the thinking stems that you thought of, or looking through the book? Had you thought like what question you wanted to ask first, or where you wanted to ask it?
So, like with this question, it says, why do you think the writer chose to tell this story? I think, I don't know. I think it might be good to ask this question before, to get almost, instead of like predict what the story's about and have them write down their answer to it, kind of as an intro to the book. But then maybe at the end, I'm thinking, have them re-answer it and see if their answer changes.
And that's a good idea, to have them come back to it, because then they're really focusing in on that author's purpose.
Why do you think the author wrote about these characters? I think honestly they would have to, if I stop them halfway through, they might be able to answer some of that, but I feel like this would more come at the end.
I agree with you.
This one says, look at the way the writer ended this book. Is this a good way to end the story? So this would have to be after they've read the story.
Right.
And then how does the characters feel? Why do the characters feel? I feel like this one I could ask throughout the story.
Sure.
Especially about different characters that come up in the story. Because usually I break apart the story. Sometimes I let them read the entire story, depending on what the strategy is. For author's purpose, I think I would let them read it, just so that because we're going to be talking about the book as a whole, but sometimes I break it apart. So if I'm breaking it apart, I could ask them as we go about each specific character that comes up in the story.
So we're focusing in on like a 15-20 minute lesson, and do you think that you would break it up, or do you think that, or are you going to wait until you're actually in the text to make that decision? Do you think based on how your students are reading, or are you, what are you thinking there?
So I think, like I said, I think for author's purpose, I would typically like let them read all the way through it, depending on the text. I'd have to definitely look at the text and see if I think that it's something that they could handle on their own. It is a fiction story, so usually they do pretty well with that.
Okay.
Compared to nonfiction. And like I said, when I'm focusing on author's purpose, I feel like they have to know the whole story in order to understand what the author's purpose of the story is.
Right.
So I probably would let them maybe read it, and then when they come to group, delve more into it. Would
Okay.
be more of my strategy with this book.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you meeting with me today, and I'll come in, I'll videotape the lesson, and then we'll debrief afterwards, and we'll really look at the data of how they responded to the higher level thinking questions. So having them write down their responses is going to be really beneficial, because we'll be able to see whether we accomplished the strategy of author's purpose, and also whether they were able to answer those higher level thinking questions. So, and hopefully with those prompts, you can stay right on track with keeping to having the students really be able to answer those questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.